Welcome to the February 24th special call Madison County School Board meeting. If there's any public that wish to speak, there's some sign-in sheets in the back. If we all would, let's stand for the prayer. Since we don't have anybody, I'm going to pray today. Lord, thank you for today and thank you for your many blessings. I ask that you help us to do the right things for our district and our staff, county, kids, all of us, Lord. Just help us to do the right things. And Lord, bless us, lead, guide, and direct us. We ask in your name. Amen.
Amen.
All right, pledge, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. We got an amendment to the agenda, some personnel changes. We're gonna move that to 5.2 on the agenda. Okay, anybody with public comment?
That amendment to the agenda is which one?
5.2,
Okay, thank you.
that'd be personnel changes. Nobody? Okay. No. All right, I need
Mr. Chair, I move to adopt the agenda.
Second.
Have a motion by Ms. Knight and a second by Ms. Hagan to adopt the agenda. Any discussion? If not, all approve. 5-0. All right, we're gonna go right on down to 5.1, the RFP. Dr. Pickles.
And we'll allow Mr. Rutherford to go ahead and present for us. Thank you.
How's everyone?
Good, good.
Thank you.
So I'm gonna give you an overview of what happened today, what bids we were, and then we'll speed through some direct kind of into the weeds a little bit on some of it. So we went to advertisement and we went to bid. This ran for 28 days. We had 5 potentials that showed up for mandatory pre-bid. Of those 5, we had one that ended up bidding, that stayed the course, and I begged and pleaded, don't pull, because, so with this, what you're doing, it's a tough job to do a hard bid on because of all that's there. And a lot of people are busy with stuff, other work that's not fences and not nets and whatever else. So we ended up getting one bid, and that one bid was $780,000. Okay? Now, that has scope of everything. A baseball, softball, ag, fieldhouse weight room, greenhouses, full scope of Helene and everything that went there. So there are some things that in this one that I think that there is money that we can cut back out of, okay? And there are some things that I think that you guys need to tell me good, bad, or indifferent. So I'll give you an example. So I pulled out buildings and pieces that were, I'm not going to say controversial, I'm going to say hadn't been used in a while for whatever reason, okay? So there's a greenhouse, okay? There was a greenhouse replacement. That greenhouse replacement carried an allowance-based cost of $18,000, okay? There was the ag pole barn replacement allowance. Now, I carried that because the work that was done by what we designed and cleaned up when we met with FEMA and went through what was broken and tore up, there was about $74,000 or $75,000 worth of damage to own all those buildings if you replace them in like they are, as they're sitting, okay? But FEMA and adjustments will pay, had approved a $60,000 value, tear them 3 old ones down that you can put $70,000 into, and the other end of it is still going to be 40, 50 years old with problems. So the allowance of the 60 puts a whole new, brand new pole barn up that now everything's replaced brand new. There is no old buildings. And it's $15,000, $20,000 less money. Less maintenance, less problem. Just because of the style of a pole barn versus a built-in-place, stick-built pieces of buildings of 4 different ones. There was a miscellaneous unforeseen from Ms. Knight about what are we going to take care of with unforeseen. So I carried an unforeseens of about $12,000 that is not accounted for. That would be money back to you if unspent. And that unspent, which I don't know, maybe there's a pipe under the ground somebody I don't know about that's broke or whatever that may be. So we held that. There is on this particular bid, I had a deductive alternate to take the money out, that $70-something thousand I'm telling you. And so it's sitting there, and that is in this bid to be reversed, like to take it out. There's also Musco. So the pole lighting on that softball and baseball, they're proprietary poles by Musco. So there's not another pole manufacturer that if we wanted to get, that we could get that would work with the system that's there without spending a bunch of money to make the communications and the harnesses adapt, okay? So Musco has to you guys, he priced to me and to Tim a week or 2 ago, and that Musco cost is about $85,000, okay? I'm gonna call it 75,000 at softball and about 11 or 70, there's 11 on baseball and about 70 something on softball. And all that's picked up in here as well as allowance. Now, if you approve, and I got some other stuff to go through with this to give you an idea of what kind of values on SOVs and insurance you have. If you approve that, tomorrow I'd prepare a contract, send this bidder a notice to proceed. So a couple things that has to do with. So Musco gave us a 4-week notification of pole availability once this was accepted and approved by this board, okay? I can't stand 4 weeks. 4 weeks puts us a month away.
Right.
That's a problem. So we already kind of had that conversation and knew that, and Dr. Pickles with Tim, Coach. So they're playing down the hill. I had a strong desire to get them in there in April. I don't know where Musco is. I wrote him an intent to contract to push him. He did. So there's an outside chance that I'll be able to hit softball in April at some time. Goal is trying to get them back for 1 game senior night. I think they have 1 senior, and I know that she would probably want to play it at home. So that's the goal. And that was April 8th or 9th, I forget, game. And Musco's, he's doing I'm pushing on him to get all I can from him. Now, baseball had some lead times on some harnesses and some EC ballast. I've kind of hit him every day for the last 2 weeks, and I think that we're close to having him. We had first went to a March 6th. He's waffling a little bit on me, but if you look at, and this is just purely so that y'all can tell me yay or nay, or good or bad. My goal was March 6th to put them in there. That was a home game when they were coming back off their schedule they chose some time ago. So that's a home game against Monroe. Then they go away on the 7th. Spring break's the 10th week. But they're playing home on the 10th on that Monday night against Hamilton. But what we may have to do is, if that's possible, is flip Hamilton on the 10th to the 20th because they play away in Hamilton. We could flip them. So they would go away first, come back home on the 20th, get me past the week of spring break if Musco waivers on their pole scenario. I got to have lights, and we got to spin 2 of those poles. 2 of those poles illuminating Miss Morris's cow field. They're just not even on the field. So that works out as long, I haven't talked to anyone except for y'all, it's the first ones other than Tim earlier of these scenarios. So letting Coach Fletcher know, hey, you need to check on that because we could have a little issue on the 6th if Musco can't come through with lighting. And he says he's had some practice with lights on, it looks pretty good. But I wouldn't take that chance. There's one pole out and the other ones are rotated. It's not going to be lit well enough to play a high school baseball game on at night, my opinion. And I wouldn't want the risk and responsibility of playing it without a full lights, truthfully. So that's a schedule for, I think, where that falls. The netting rep, he's promised me the world. I'm not his contract holder, this bidder would be. But he's kind of pushing him a little bit on weeks. I'll call him tonight and we'll get him back in line. I think that'll be fine for a couple of days. So schedule-wise, I think we're probably good, except for Musco's going to push me to have to go to 17th. And I think if we made the decision now to say, you know what, that's what needs to be planned. You can flip 2 games. Monroe's the only problem. You got to play them away or somewhere else, and give me that time to get that field lit where it's safely lit and those beams turned. Softball, that's a 4-week lead from today. I'm hoping it's 3, which puts me at the 4 weeks puts me at the tail end of March. That gets that first week, second week of August to meet that senior night. Hopeful. That's the goal.
April.
April, sorry. Yeah, end of March, first of April. Yeah. So, time frame, all that cost. I have to be honest. I'm not wild about the money of it. It seems like an awful lot of money. I will say this, it kind of, insurance adjusters, not surprised. So I kind of ran through some values of your SOVs. Me and Tim was schedule values of your valuations of your buildings, okay? And I think I'm close with this, but I think currently somewhere in, if I'm right, you correct me if I'm wrong with this, I think somewhere in the softball, there's about $180,000 of an SOV valuation of property on that, for that as a whole, is a 5% deductible. So when you pull those deductibles, you're at 5% of that value, that's $12,250. So $9,000 on 180, which puts you at 171. Baseball is about 245 with a 12,250 deductible. Greenhouse is valuations of 35,000. Some of these valuations we'll take them because they're good. Then you got the equipment barn, feed barn, hay barn, ag stuff, his valuation's about 95, okay? Time you do all that, you're somewhere around $535,000, $550,000. Best guess for me. Why am I telling you this? I think you're about $100,000 off of your mark of coverage, of full coverage for replacement, which is pretty darn good covering for nets and, I mean, for stuff you can insure, really. You know, your world. So, I didn't feel too good until I went through this because, you know, how do you cover and pay for fence and chain link and nets? And so anyways, that's what I think I'm pretty close with this, I think, these values. So just to give you an idea of what valuations those are. Now, I think we go to contract with the 780. If we don't, talk to FEMA, talk to Melinda and Jeremy, consultants 3 times a day. Mm-hmm. If we don't go to bid, if we don't go to contract, we rebid. What happens if nobody bids it? You rebid. What happens if it bids again? Over. You rebid. There is no protocol except for rebidding and rebidding and rebidding and rebidding. So if you don't, and just being straight with you guys, if you don't take this option, you won't play at home on any of those fields this year. Nor will ag be anywhere near ready for this year closing because it'll be a 30-day window, start again, and can I even get any of these people that would bid again? The probably answer is no, just won't. So, and that's the only way you get around that, we don't want FEMA's recovery money. That is $50,000, $60,000? Maybe 28,000.
87, I think, with the 2.
Yeah. So it's a pretty good, it's a pretty good deal to get the money instead of lose the deductible values of coverage. That's my understanding. Now, you guys are the chiefs, I'm just the Indian. I'll do what you tell me to do. I just want you to know the full story of what it is that we've been trying to make sure that we cover all the bases with everything. So, questions or something I may have left off?
I got a question.
Yes,
You
ma'am.
You said 780,000 was the bid, but what would we wind up paying an estimated?
So $780,000 would be what you go to contract with.
Right.
And then, so if we can cut $15,000, $20,000 out of his scope, saying we can reduce this. For example, I personally, and I'm stepping way out here because it's not my decision, it's y'all's, I think we could cut some of the cost of some of those ad allowance buildings. Do you need a $30,000 greenhouse? I'm not going to say the word, but I think I could get you one a lot less money than we could. So to answer your question, Ms. Gibson, I think that there's a $40,000, $50,000 cut, and you still get the same service, you still get the same stuff, and we just whittle it and cut it. A lot of these allowance buildings were based on your SOV recovery cost. So I simply carried that. Now we can work back down on some of that. Three trade bids. There are some, so what happens here is you have to, in here, there's P&P bond, performance and payment bonds. So all these bonds have cost. There's $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 of bonding cost. Some of the vendors out there will run from that because that's statutory. I can't change it, y'all can't change it. That's your procurement policies. But if I get to this and I take that vendor and I say, hey, this is your exact scope, this is your dates, don't price me how you're scared about what you may not do. Let me help you and tell you what you're going to do. Then I can get them margins down. And then I take the risk out of it for them, and we get better numbers. And that's what I'm saying. It would not be an unfair advantage. It would just be me working that scope to better suit it to what people's dreams and ideas were for what that building would be. That greenhouse, doesn't need to be 30 foot long. That's what it had to be to go through bidding processes. We take it back down. Does that answer your question?
I appreciate you looking to cut. That's good.
Yes, ma'am.
I would like to know how much we'll be responsible for.
Well, I think it's gonna,
So 780 is your bid.
Yeah.
You have somewhere in FEMA and insurance, I think around 550 or 600, best I can tell. So you're $100,000 out of your pocket. That's me guessing.
100,000.
Yeah, I'm guessing there.
Everything totally new.
Yes, ma'am.
Including netting and fencing.
Yes, ma'am. On both fields.
Those extras.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm satisfied.
Now, you can look through those SOVs I think the district has been issued. It's where me and Tim pulled them from, trying to make sure we had a good idea of what they were adjustments for. And I don't know if there's a valuation of going back and saying, wait, I'll give you an example. One of the SOVs on one of the poles was $40,000 off. Wow. But a lot of times with insurance adjustments, they don't know that. They're pulling the RS means or some national data for replacements, and the averages outweigh itself. So to go back and say, whoa, they probably won't, but then going to market value, when they go to market, and then one of the things that has to be done with this too, this needs to go to insurance for approval. So, which made you help me push that quickly.
I've already emailed them.
Okay. So that would have to be to get approval so that money is reimbursed from insurance. So that's kind of what I think and I know, and the bids and everything are there is factual. I'm running from your SOVs a little bit on me picking and choosing some of those. There may be more in there that I didn't even pick up. I don't know.
Okay.
I'm wondering if we've talked to the coaches about what they really need, and do we need everything that is on the paper now, or can they eliminate something, or an FFA advisor? In other words, is there any way to cut it,
So I
but
know,
still maintain the programs, but in other words, watching the money?
So yes.
So-
So I went to Ms. Morris.
Okay.
And so part of this cut from what is there now is cutting, so we're cutting about $25,000+ of what was bid to what FFA. So FFA is already, we've already cut them 25,000 by, and putting a new building in instead of repairing the old ones. So that has been done, and she's happy with that. Long-term, she would put flexible, movable panels in her barns to make it usable for most swine and cow and calf. So that's been done. Baseball, there really is nothing to cut because of liability and safety with poles laying over, fences tore down. The only thing that I think we could beat out of baseball for as far as cost is seeing if I can beat and work on some of those numbers with those dates. For example, if I don't hold March 6th as a deadline, how much money was that costing us, district, to meet a March 6th date? So my call tomorrow would be, hey, I'm gonna give you 2 weeks. What can I beat out of the labor on that overhead rates for you working 8 days to get it? Now I'm giving you 21 or 17. So that's on the table. Softball is the same way. There's really nothing in softball or baseball scopes that's not damaged. Everything there is bad. The greenhouse can be cut, like I said, and we take it back down to a more usable. This is one that I have not talked to Kaylee on except for in passing. I think that building was originally put there and its size it's huge. It hasn't really been utilized in a good while. So could we grow that down to keep their program for horticulture or what she has in mind and make that fit to a third of that cost? Yes, ma'am. I think that works. And she was open to that when I mentioned it to her. The field house painting of the exterior, we could pull that one completely from scope and flip it back to another agreement on a maintenance piece, and we cut that number in half. It's minimal, it's $1,000 or so. So we've done a lot of that already, but there are still some things that we can tighten up with those. I think, for me, coaches, I wouldn't give them a choice on what they would cut. I'd do it because there's some safety concerns with the power and fencing. The curriculum on ag, we've already went there with her purposely to try to shrink that cost.
Well, thank you.
Yes,
I
ma'am.
appreciate that. I'm very concerned about the money. We've had money issues. We're closing schools. We're trying to
Sure.
elevate the teacher salaries. So in other
Sure.
words,
Sure,
money is important to
sure.
us.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, we have a motion for the RFP for the, or the bid, or whatever it is,
To award the bid.
to award the bid.
Allstate Construction Inc. as well, is that right?
Yes,
And then the award needs to be subject to insurance approval.
yes.
I have a motion.
Mr. Chair, I'll move to accept the bid from Allstate Construction with the contingency that is approved by insurance.
Second.
I have a motion by Ms. Knight, a second by Ms. Hagan. Is there any more discussion on this?
Because that bid is going to Allstate with insurance approval.
With insurance approval.
And Will, that was the only bid we got, so we're awarding the bid to the sole bid.
Yep,
Okay.
yep.
Okay, we have a motion. I think I already said this, so I'll say it again. Motion by Ms. Knight and a second by Ms. Hagan to accept the bid from Allstate with the approval from insurance. All approved, 5-0.
So if it's okay too, I will send back to you guys just so, I want y'all to have full transparency so that coaches say, when are we getting play? I will tomorrow, from Ms. Gibson, from your questions, we will try to squeeze and tweak whatever else that maybe hadn't been seen. And we'll try to see if we can tighten that down, as whatever that is, with all vendors. And then I'll get dates back, Dr. Pickles, to you, so you can share with the board so that folks and coaches and people know home is for sure on the 17th or the 9th. And that's really depending on me getting Musco a notice of intent tomorrow. And then he'll give me a date. He won't give me one until I give him a notice of intent. Yeah. Okay.
Appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank y'all.
Okay, we're gonna move on to 5.2, personnel changes.
At your table, you have two, and I appreciate you amended the agenda. There was one back from October that somehow missed being placed on the November 4th agenda. So we need that, and then there's one more, administrative leave with pay, and you have the letter before you. So I do ask for approval of both of these, please.
Okay. We can have a motion, do I have a motion to approve the personnel changes?
I move to approve the personnel change.
I second.
We have a motion by Ms. Gibson, a second by Ms. Knight to approve the personnel changes. Any discussion?
I got a concern. This letter right here that you referred to, Dr. Pickles, has the attorney seen the letter? Is it?
Yes,
I want to
ma'am.
make sure that it's,
So let me give you with that letter, if a administrative complaint or a petition is filed, what will happen is that will come back before this board. I will, and of course, I'm the board's attorney. So what we did was, on my advice to Dr. Pickles, she went and got her own attorney to prepare that because we have to have that separation. And so, yes, it has been looked at by an attorney, not by me. The reason for that is if there's a petition that comes up, if I was helping with that process, then I couldn't be y'all's attorney.
well, I just want to make sure that it was,
Yes.
met all the
And Mr. Dietzen
stipulations.
Yeah, and Mr. Dietzen looked at it as well. Or
Okay.
not at the letter, but it looked at the process as well.
Okay, thank you.
Any more discussion on this? Not? All approve the personnel changes? Raise your hand. 5-0. Okay, I think that's all. Anybody else got anything?
The last thing that I just need to let you know, would the board be available on March 18th for a workshop by DOE? Ms. Gibson had wanted to speak to DOE regarding the school improvement process. So they are proposing March 18th,
What time?
10 a.m.
I'm good. March 18th.
Let me just be clear with my stuff, because like today I had 5:30, and then, I guess I had it reversed, 5:30 and 6 p.m. And I have on the 25th, 6 p.m. Central School tomorrow.
Yes.
And then I have my steering committee, what else do I have? On March 3rd, a workshop at 5 p.m. And a board meeting,
That's what I've got.
am I correct? Was that workshop at 5 p.m.?
March 3rd.
March.
Uh-huh. Well, maybe
We have board
maybe I
meeting.
did
We have a
reversal then.
board
What was the
meeting.
workshop?
That's board meeting.
Well, see, maybe I did that reversal.
No, I had 5 o'clock too,
Oh, okay. For March 3rd.
for March 3rd.
Well, I don't know that we're going to have the other committees ready.
Oh, so that's
So
only
that's
tentative
That
then.
was for.
Tentative, yes.
So that's
Tentative.
out, okay.
Okay,
Yes.
then you said March 18th. Okay.
For DOE at 10 o'clock.
And then on that Tuesday, the 4th, another meeting at Central at 6 p.m.
I don't have that.
Yeah, that was the one we supposed to do the other public hearing
Concerning
this March.
school consolidation?
Yeah. School.
So that's now going to be the 20th.
The 20th? Okay. Yeah, that's
So
right.
that-
I got that.
Yes.
Right, that's right.
You-
Okay,
Yeah, I
so
think that was
I'm straight.
canceled.
The 20th is the 20th of March?
20th of March.
Okay. Let me, okay, the 18th is DOE, and that's on a Thursday. And what meeting is that, the 20th?
No, the March 18th,
It's DOE
At 10 o'clock.
at 10 a.m.
that's a Tuesday, not a Thursday.
Okay, I'm saying the 20th.
Oh, we'll be at the school,
Central
Yep.
School?
Central School
At 6 o'clock.
Consolidation.
Okay, 6 p.m.
And I'll send an invite,
Okay, so
calendar
let me
invite too.
get this straight then. We have March the 4th, 6 p.m. at Central.
No,
That's been-
no,
No,
That's
that
the
one's-
one that we
That's the
changed
one
to
that's
the
been
20th.
It's
changed.
been canceled.
Okay,
The 3rd, the consolidation meetings, I have to wait to see, it's tentative right now. I have to wait and see if I have more committees ready to present.
And so we're getting out for spring break
10th through
starting
the,
the 7th.
yes, we'll get out that day.
So will we have a board meeting on the 17th?
On the 17th, yes.
Okay.
Okay, I think we got it straight.
So if the 18th at 10 a.m. is good for everybody, I will let our DOE contacts know.
Good with me.
And that's just a workshop, so you do not need to come that day. Okay.
Thank you.
All right, we're gonna adjourn this meeting.
Thank you.
If anybody got a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
Adjourn.
No.
All right, workshop, Mr. Williams.
His are probably better updated than what I got.
I got
No, I discovered that what I received was not up to date.
Thank you, sir.
I'm glad to see you. You must have recovered. Good.
Thank you.
Okay, that's good.
All right, so I was in charge, well, I was the chairman. Oh, no.
No, you was the chair.
Co-chair.
You just put my name down.
You were the board rep.
So he was the board, Coach Carroll was the board representative for the Sports and Activities Committee. And I was tasked with reining in some folks from different areas to try to see if we can come up with some recommendations for Central School and the high school involving not just sports, but activities, academic activities and clubs and so on and so forth. So as you can see, we do have a couple of recommendations. After talking with the committees, we met 3 times. Some of the things that we discussed, the first thing that we discussed was a recommendation to move to a countywide athletic director. But in doing so, we felt like it'd be more efficient for the district and everybody would be on the same page and it'd be less confusion between sports scheduling and things of that nature for the district. But with that comes some stipulations and some things that would have to change if we went to a countywide AD. For example, if Mr. Harris were selected to be the countywide AD, he would not be able to maintain the same schedule as far as classes that he has at the high school. So some of our recommendations for that was that he wouldn't be able to teach a full load because he'd have to take on some more administrative roles to handle the central school. And not only included in that, in the central school, is some things that he would have to do for the charter schools, also maintaining those records and things. One of the recommendations that came out of that was that that the AD, the countywide AD, would be responsible to the superintendent. He would answer to the superintendent and not the principals, since, it may be pulled in a whole bunch of different directions. By answering to the superintendent, there's just one line of direction in that department. Our second recommendation was we looked at the possibility of adding soccer to the high school, but since Central is not going to be having a soccer program moving forward, we see no reason to recommend soccer at the high school. Part of the reasoning for not recommending soccer for the high school is that it would be pretty much a non-revenue generating sport, which would be further drag our athletics program in the red, because it doesn't create revenue. And some of the other obvious reasons would be officials, travel, and things of that nature. How would we pay for that? And that would have to come from somewhere. One of the members did recommend that we look at possibly adding a tennis to the central school. But ultimately, we recommended not to because of the lack of tennis competition around for middle schools. That being one part. The other part is in order to maintain an official tennis program and play in the FHSA and under tennis rules, you have to have 3 tennis courts in your location. We thought we could possibly look at playing tennis down at the rec, but again, they only have 2 tennis courts, so that was ruled out. So ultimately, we ruled no soccer and no tennis would move to the high school. Stop me anytime if you got any questions or anything. Moving on to the third recommendation, we looked at different club activities and opportunities that we thought should be offered down at the Central School. Of course, when we talk about offering or improving or increasing more club sponsors and activities, that comes with man hours and of course stipends and things of that nature. We thought about recommending adding drama and theater to Central. I know one time we did have a drama department, theater at Central. An English teacher ran it. So that was some of our recommendations. And keep in mind, these are recommendations from the committee that we thought we should look at. We recommend bring back Student Government Association at Central. We recommended FFA at Central since our ag department at the high school is so inclusive. But we do understand that in order for us to have ag at the Central School, we have to have an ag certified teacher, and that teacher has to be certified through the state of Florida, which means we'd have to find another science teacher because Katie can't do it because her schedule's already full at the high school. So she can't come down and teach ag. So we need to find another teacher that would be certified in ag to do that. But on the plus side of that, those 8th graders would be able to take agri-science as 8th graders and get a 9th grade credit. So, am I right? I'm right, Robert? Okay. We recommend adding FCA back at Central. We did have one of our committee members volunteer to lead FCA. Matt Thompson volunteered, so he's looking into working with Jason Fletcher at the high school is getting the chapter started back at Central. One of the recommendations for the high school, and I imagine this would have to happen at Central some kind of way also if we're going to have a lot of more inclusivity in the clubs, is to bring back club day in the master schedule. Not sure how much extra work that would be, but in the past we had club day where clubs would actively meet during school. Mm-hmm. This would alleviate some of the issues with maintaining members with students that can't meet after school or before school. So we thought we should look at that to see if it was a possibility of doing it again. Recommending adding yearbook journalism club at Central. We did do it a little bit in the past through did we do it through English department or with collaboration with the librarian? It's not librarian, it's media specialist now.
Yeah.
So, but they worked together and we had a journalism club and we thought that would be a good benefit to have back at Central. Some of the new things that we recommended was FFEA, which is Florida Future Educators of America. We thought Central and the high school would benefit from having such a club where we can kind of encourage some students to go into teaching and kind of homegrow them and help them come back. One of the other clubs that was recommended was the civics organization clubs, like the Key Club, Kiwanis, I think Ms. Higgins, you remember that, and Interact Club, which is now called Leo, I think. So we try to get our kids in some civic activities and some community stuff. No.
So some of those already exist.
Yeah, but not at Central.
Oh.
So, yeah, we wanted to try to get them, we started with the high school, what clubs that they offer that can benefit us at Central, and it'd just be a transition up through the ranks. I spoke with Ms. Griffin. She's pretty up to date on all the clubs. One of the, on the fourth item there, it talks about all-season sports and active clubs. On my committee was a lot of coaches and some club sponsors also. But one of the biggest things that they talked about was that some of the stuff that they do during the summer. Beta Club, for example, they have competitions during the summer, but it's basically her doing it on her own time. Football does weightlifting during the summer. Basketball does off-season stuff during the summer. So one of their recommendations was to come up with a way to pay a stipend for those activities where competition and activities is active during the summer. Perhaps grant an allotment of hours per coach or for the AD to divvy out so that they can be compensated during the summer. And of course, when you're looking at stipends and supplements, because every club sponsor activity has a supplement or a stipend, one of our recommendations was to differentiate, not necessarily have every club sponsor be paid the same, have it based on activities, and also have a requirement. For example, you should meet 5 times. You should do 2 community service projects or something like that in order to maintain the supplement. Okay, I already talked about number 2. And again, one of the big things was number 3. We recommended that the teachers union and district revisit the topic of competitive stipends and supplements to ensure that the Madison School District supplements and stipends are as competitive as teacher salaries. So in other words, part of our committee went to, but they didn't go to, they searched different districts and their supplement pays and what it was like, and we're not quite the bottom, but pretty close to the bottom in terms of what supplements that we pay out.
Teachers pay also.
Well, that's why we said make it competitive.
It's a money thing.
I
We
get
would
it.
pay our teachers more if we really could.
So, and so they again, they want it to be as competitive as teacher salaries. They didn't shoot for the moon,
Well, that
but
means
they
it's
want to be
going
somewhere
down
at
there,
least in the middle.
because other teachers' salary way down.
We're trying to get them all up.
Yeah, that was not my department, so I'm coming from that area. And the last thing that our committee recommended was exploring ways to raise funds to upgrade all the athletic facilities. Some people call it a splash fund. One of the ideas was to try to get the county to do a 50-cent tax And, you know, you would work with upgrading facilities in both schools, not just one school. So I think how the splash funds works is if you earmark it for a couple of projects, and once one project gets done, then you move over to the next project.
So we just got finished discussing what Mr. Rutherford's going to do with athletics upgrades and things.
Well, I think they're thinking bigger picture, football
And you're thinking
field.
money.
Ma'am?
And you're thinking money.
Yeah, yes, ma'am.
And half cents tax.
Mhm.
Okay. See how well that goes over to with the voters. That has to be by referendum.
Right.
That's right, they'd have the opportunity.
And
Right,
then-
right.
And then the taxes went up to 8 cents, and you know how they were about that one.
It's just a
I'm just
messenger.
saying, yeah,
But I'm just pointing out also.
right.
Mhm.
But, you know, again.
And then, what buildings are you talking about upgrading? Because when we finish with those facilities, most of them should be upgraded.
No, talking about the stadium, the track, the field, moving to a sprint turf.
Tennis court.
Like the tennis courts, yeah.
Things of that nature.
It's gonna be.
And then, you know, then down to Central. Central has nowhere for their elementary kids to play in winter weather. An aeronasium type in the courtyard, something of that nature.
Okay, let me go back, Mr. Williams, and you're saying that, and I think that it is a good idea that the AD reports directly to the superintendent for less hassle. But then you have principals on these campuses, and these, you know, each principal should discuss it with the principal first,
Right.
what they're planning to do, and then confer with the principal, and then they agree on whatever and all that, and then he takes it to the superintendent.
Well,
Not that he just decides and then go to the superintendent. He has to respect the principals who are on that campus, is what I would say.
yeah, he would definitely have to communicate with the principals
Okay, well,
to
that's-
put everything in order.
That's the
But,
point that I wanted to make with that.
yes, ma'am.
Okay, and now, I can see why we can't have tennis. There's too many barriers to that. And what's the name on the city commission tried to get her some tennis stuff, and it didn't come through.
Yeah, one of the, if I can remember correctly.
Yeah, Miss Thompson.
Thompson.
That would have required the school being open 24/7 to the public.
And so there are some barriers, but what are the barriers, and since Mrs. Brown is here, for not offering soccer?
Of course, they offer it in town.
So this year and last year were the first years of the soccer program, and both years, financially, that program went below budget.
Okay.
We had to borrow, soccer program had to borrow from other sports just to pay for the officials and transportation, so they didn't make games.
So
Thank
But
you.
it didn't generate enough money.
can I ask on that subject, do we think that is just because the person who is coaching or the facilitator is not doing fundraising and, or do we think that we don't, because I know, like, speaking to some of the kids, there's kids' interest in soccer. You know, I'm just wondering because I don't want to take something away from the kids that they have interest in because the person who's in charge doesn't know how to fundraise or
And I didn't
ask
hear
for
too much
money.
about that. You know, you can hear all other
You see what I'm
programs,
saying?
but I didn't hear too much about that.
So like, I don't know
either.
where that,
Well, and we have had soccer at Central before and ran into the same issue. Because it would require a lot of fundraising.
And they've got a very active soccer program in Madison. A lot of them are playing soccer.
A lot of boys. There are some girls.
I knew a girl that
but
played.
Yeah, but there are a lot of boys.
Yeah.
So the high school had soccer at one point in time, but they couldn't keep enough girls. They were having to forfeit games every time they turned around because they just didn't have enough players.
It's at the wrong time of the year.
yeah.
When you're in a small school, it's at the wrong time, when you got basketball, you got.
At the same
soccer,
time.
You know, all that's at the same time, it's tough.
What is, absolutely.
So I'm sorry, you all, those were the questions, you know, I don't know anything, but I had. And then I just made some little comments about our teacher's salary, and you wanna make that competitive with the.
It's all on the
So
same line.
it seems to me that it would go down because our teachers are way underpaid.
Well,
And you wanna make it competitive
Well,
with
we-
them.
The coaches are they last on the bottom.
Oh, God.
They 20, well,
They're
they,
not, I did the research myself.
I just seen it the
For
other,
the union,
I just-
because we addressed it.
I know, but they all went up, we ain't went up. They all went up since y'all done that.
For this year,
Yeah, like Perry's paying $9,000 for the AD.
And look what they.
And $17,000.
Look at the size of Perry and the size of Madison.
They done lost Buckeye and everything else down there, you know.
But they still have more whatever than we have.
I know they do, but I mean, we play 3 and they pay
And it
9.
seems like we wanna put more emphasis on sports now.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying we just need to be competitive around. I mean, we 22 out of 23 schools that they checked.
And look at the teacher's salary.
But
It
now
was just
some
on
of our
TV.
coaches make
Last week it
more.
was on TV
But
about the teacher's salary here.
it's the non-revenue coaches, they right there with the rest of them. It's the revenue sports that we don't.
And I thought they were doing it for the love of the game and for the children.
I will admit that some teachers, take on extra duties for extra pay.
Yeah.
So, but if it's and I think I'm just being honest, if it's an extra duty that requires a lot of work, then we're gonna have less teachers and coaches taking on these extra duties.
That's right.
That's why they want it to be competitive, because, I mean, we can look at, Swanee and Jefferson and
No, you're not gonna look
You
at
know.
Jefferson because Jefferson got all that money.
Taylor County.
I
But what I'm
think-
saying is, yeah,
A lot of them take on extra duties to supplement
Supplement the
the
pay.
pay, to be able to survive.
so, I mean, that's why the committee recommended,
Unfortunately,
they didn't throw numbers, elevated numbers out there, they just said competitive as teachers. So, as the teaching salary. So, in other words, if teacher salary goes up, then
It needs-
supplement should
yes.
go up a little bit too.
Not
So,
meaning, not meaning competitive like teacher salaries,
Right.
as competitive as the teacher salaries. It needs to adjust.
Right, with the times,
But we are in good shape with non-revenue sports.
yeah.
We are.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
we're
far as
looking-
supplements.
Right.
and since we're consolidating, it looks like with all these committees, they're wanting to spend more and more money instead of saving money. They're spending more and more money, wants to spend more money.
Well, in
So we
our
were trying
case,
to consolidate, the whole purpose I thought was, then we start with the teachers, and then if it filters on down, well and fine. But now every committee almost has a way to spend money instead of saving
well,
money.
in our case, we're trying to spend money back on the people.
Right,
Back on the
yeah.
people that's doing the work.
I think part of the purpose
So on
of,
the back of the children, we consolidate these schools in when we lied and said that we were trying to, save money when we were consolidating schools.
I think it's more consolidation so that we can pour back into our educators in these programs and offer more for our children.
But it's gonna, I mean, if we're gonna offer more, it's gonna cost more.
That's right.
Yeah.
We definitely need to offer more.
Yes. I think
More
these are,
opportunities for those kids and
Right.
especially ag at the central school.
I think these are all wonderful,
Stuff like that.
wonderful recommendations, and I think, this would provide a lot more opportunities for our kids.
Can we do,
I don't see any opportunities that are provided for the children. I'm seeing where they're not recommending soccer, sport, tennis.
All of these
I see
classes,
where it's recommendations so that the adults can get more money.
I'm
where's
talking
involve-
about
Item-
FFA
Item
and
three.
all these additional opportunities that they
Yes.
have listed
those?
on item number 3 on the agenda.
Yeah, some of them are already there.
None of those are at Central.
right,
Those are like your feeder clubs that,
I
to start
understand
those
they're
at
coming from
Central.
Central to the high school.
None of these are currently offered at the Central School. So they are proposing that we look into offering these programs at the Central School in addition to the programs that they already
I was
have.
talking about the money, and these are not just, when you add these programs, like, bringing back student government, that's not gonna take money.
Well, I mean,
Teacher
it'll have for a
There's
sponsor.
You have to have a sponsor to oversee
Well,
it.
of course, we would have a sponsor, but I'm talking about the raises that we're talking about. Anybody that we hire, we've got to pay them, and we will pay them. But I'm just saying, we're talking about more extra money. And we'll add these, this is still more extra money instead of, I'm just saying we should concentrate on our teachers first, and when we have some money, then we can
But
discuss
most
this
of,
later.
most of the people that will be performing these duties will be teachers.
I'm saying teacher's salary,
I
not
know.
supplements.
I don't know how you can look at one without the other.
You don't. You
I-
put this
I
page
see how
there,
you
and you
can,
put this
but-
page here.
but
And you
that's-
put one in front of you, and you put the other one behind that page.
And that's why we're
how you
losing
look
a
at
lot
one
of
and
people.
look
That's
at the
right.
other one.
That's why we're losing a lot of teachers to
That's-
go to
No,
other places.
that
It
is.
Not because
It
of
is.
supplements.
Supplement
We're
has
not
to do
losing
with
teachers
teacher
because of
pay.
supplements.
But it has
We're
to do
losing
with
teachers
teacher
for
pay.
other reasons.
It has to do with teacher pay and teacher retention.
That's right.
Yes.
Teachers pay, not teachers supplement.
Teachers want to stay where they're appreciated.
That's right.
Exactly.
And-
And then you're saying they want to stay where they're appreciated.
Right.
Of course, but that does not have to do with sports and whatever.
Well,
This does
but it
not
all
have to
works
do with
together. When you provide opportunities for the students stay, and that in turn, it encourages the teachers to stay when they're provided more financial opportunities I mean, it all works together.
Well, I mean, you can
It
look
does.
at
I know
research.
how it works
Research will
together.
show when kids are
concentration.
involved in after-school activities and
We'll find the money.
extracurricular things, they do better in school.
Yes.
So, yes,
Except the supplements are negotiated
right, through the
items.
union.
And so, I mean, we can say, the board can say we want to add these, but it has to be negotiated.
Right.
Yeah, memory was on our committee. We made sure that, memory had some input to let us know what steps had to be taken in order to
Right.
try to recommend these supplements.
Because we
It's-
tried to recommend some more this past time in negotiations, and the teachers on that team wanted to focus on salaries.
That's what I was told, that's why I'm,
Well,
See what I gotta
listen,
say?
I know that teachers should be the number one, but once again, when we get that, then to be able to keep coaches, which we can't do, to be able to keep them, then we're gonna have to be competitive, as a teacher is, if we move the teachers up, we're gonna have to be
we've been losing
competitive.
coaches,
Huh?
we've been losing coaches.
Yes, we can't get none, we was too short in football this time. They wasn't there, can't get them.
It's hard.
If
I
it
mean,
wasn't for community
these
guys,
folks-
we'd be in trouble.
That's
Volleyball
exactly.
coaches and,
You
stuff
can't
like
hardly get a volleyball coach.
They're few in supply. Anyway,
So these are, again, these are recommendations by the committee. We would hope that, they would be considered. We know that, the world we live in, everything we recommend is not gonna be, a given or a guarantee. We just want consideration.
of course, and I'm not fussing, I'm just saying what, and I respect these considerations and these items that you've given. And, of course, I appreciated it, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you have any more questions for Mr. Rod on his?
I don't-
Thank you.
Who's up?
Up next is Ms. Hill. Are you going to present branding first or? Branding first.
Okay. Let me start by saying, we are recommending to the school board no name change and no mascot change.
Thank you.
Okay?
I can go on.
We have heard, we had looked at, trying to see if it would kind of help ease, some concerns that outlying schools were having, with having to lose their schools. But there seems to be a
Consistent.
a very strong voice for leaving things the way they are. So, and there were some expenses that would have been incurred, you know, to make changes. And so, we decided to make our focus, more geared toward, creating a positive image of Madison County Central School. It was suggested that we actually have an influencer contest and let the kids compete to see who could be the official influencers for the school next year. That's a big thing. For those of you who don't know,
Explain that.
an influencer is someone who uses social media to put out information. To advertise. Influencers, it's actually an occupation
They
now.
have the followers and some of them.
Yeah.
There you go,
Yes.
there you go. And the more followers you have, you know, the better you are. If it's your business, then, you know, the more money you make. But our goal is to create a more positive image of Madison County Central School. And so by having this contest with the middle school kids, we're hoping that, you know, we can start putting stuff out there to counteract some of the negative that's out there. Because there are so many positive things that are going on. And, you know, every school has, they have kids. And when you have kids, you're gonna have some things that, that go along with that, especially, you know, adolescents. But at the same time, you want the good things to be on the Madison word of mouth as well as, you know, the criticisms. And so, anyway, by having that contest and teaching the kids, that is a possible career for you one day, but it's also helping the school. So we want to continue to have that contest. We also are going to start working on developing a school motto that would be inclusive of our outline schools coming into the central school. And then we want to work with the school to develop a new mission statement, which a mission statement is something you should go back and revise regularly. And this would be a good time for the central school to go back and revise their mission statement. So, and to do that, we would include stakeholders, because that's the proper protocol for developing mission statements. So we're not recommending any changes tonight. We're just updating you on what our committee will be working on. How's that?
Thank you.
All right, you want me to move on to the next one? The Facilities Committee. The Facilities Committee has met 3 times, and we have worked on trying to see what possibilities there are for our buildings. Not just the outline schools, but also the school board annex was one of the buildings that was mentioned. And so we are recommending that we work with the county commissioners and the the Department of Emergency Management, to acquire grant funds to turn Lee Elementary into a hurricane shelter, an impact shelter. It will require extensive work to make it safe during a hurricane. But if we were to accomplish that, and there's money there, then we wouldn't have to use the central school and tear it down every time and have to go back and fix it up. It would make life a lot easier when storms come.
And some of this responsibility would shift over to the county.
Absolutely.
Yes, ma'am.
Absolutely. So that's one of the recommendations. We are also recommending, we did some research on, the values of the properties, and we do have interest from some prospective buyers. And so we are recommending that we list the Pinetta Elementary School, Greenville Elementary School, and the annex. Now, I know that the annex is also used by the credit union, but they are interested in purchasing that building. And so, how the board decides to list that is up to y'all, but our recommendation is to list the properties to put them up for
You all
sale.
take in consideration, Greenville Elementary School was bought with black money. It was bought with black money. It was owned with black money to start that school. And there are other things and means that folk have been researching. Mr. K.P. Wilson, the first black man over there, he has family over there, and Mr. Frank C. Merritt, Mr. K.C. purchased that land first, and Mr. Merritt got original what the school is on. The other part they bought from the Choice family, Miss Annie Mae Choice and all of them. But those schools was bought with black money. And people are feeling some kind of way about that because they're thinking that there are some kind of ways, and we're taking everything from Greenville anyway, that can be worked, that we can work something out and put stipulations in place, and that the Greenville, whomever committee or whatever, take over that property, because it has some significant value to the community.
And that is completely up to the board.
Yes, but
That's a
I'm just
discussion
saying,
that
had
you guys will
discussion
have.
come in place on that committee. Was that ever mentioned to that committee?
No, ma'am.
Well, see, that's what I'm saying. You all didn't really do your research good either.
No,
That
I
property-
mean, the conversation about where the property came from, yes, I mentioned that, yes, ma'am.
Oh, you-
And,
mhm.
yes, ma'am, and we did bring up the opportunity to try to partner with Greenville, but at the time, their meeting that they had previous to our meeting, they did not have the means or the funds to be able to take on the load of the building. Now, since then, Mr. Cornegay and a couple others, they're looking at some other grant options. And he is going to try to come back to us with a presentation, in the midst of all of that. So all of that has been, my first recommendation was to partner with Greenville and North Florida Child Development. Unfortunately, the funding is not there for them right now. So we had to make a recommendation. We actually have a nonprofit that is interested in buying one or potentially both of the schools. And
Who is that nonprofit?
it's what's the name of it? Hold on.
And will they be competing with what we have here? Will they be
No,
trying to
absolutely
hire other
not. It's only
schools?
gonna be,
A
no,
competition of
absolutely,
what we as a
no. And our recommendation on there also included, no matter what we do, whether if we were partnering with the town and the city of Greenville, or if we were partnering with the Methodist home, or if we sell the buildings, all contracts will have a non-compete and,
So who
a
is
first
that
right of
nonprofit
refusal.
organization?
I'll send you the details on
Okay.
it.
Is this
It's
the one out of Tallahassee?
True, yes. It's a very huge,
What they do?
they want to use it as a distribution center, for, hold on, let me pull her
And they're
contacts.
somehow affiliated with Second Harvest.
Yeah.
Is that the lady that
That's the
called
lady
me?
that called
Yes.
you.
Truth is truth,
She was at ministry,
no matter who it was.
church or something.
Yeah, so, but I will say that they are trying to work on, it's True Wisdom. They are trying to work on securing some grant funding and some options, to try to bring potentially working on a partnership back to the committee before, anything is made. But they're still putting a presentation together.
Thank you.
So it is being taken into consideration to answer your question. Yes, ma'am.
And I guess it's the town clerk who's on our committee.
Yes.
Did ask if they could have priority, if they came up with the funds, could have,
Correct.
we could work with them. And that is, we told her that is up to the board.
Now, who are you talking, who did you say, who was the person that was interested?
Now,
said
this,
the
the
town
lady,
Beginning of your sentence, you said somebody was,
True, what was it?
Yeah.
True.
True Wisdom.
True Wisdom.
Wisdom, okay.
But you
Is
said
a
the town clerk.
nonprofit that runs food banks.
Okay, I got you.
And they want to purchase it for a distribution center.
So that's separate from True Wisdom.
No, True
Oh,
Wisdom,
that's
that
part
is
of
who
this
that
whole
is.
thing, okay.
Yes.
And,
Now, the town clerk who came to our
She's
meeting,
on our
she's on our
committee.
committee.
Yes.
She asked at our last meeting if the town of Greenville decided to purchase the building.
no, we wouldn't sell it to them, purchase it.
Well,
They
she
would have
asked
to
if
get
they could
funds.
purchase.
They would have to get funds and grants and
They're
things.
working on
They
some
would not be
grant funding.
purchasing that, they would be turned over to the town of Greenville, is what I would say.
They're-
And that is up to the board. That
They gotta do
is,
some consideration of people's feelings and whatever and everything, and how the money was first, how the land was first bought with black money. The school wouldn't have even been there because they had little buildings here, there, and everywhere, over the little counties, little old one-room buildings. And these two men got together with their money out of their pockets. Because the county wouldn't even consider it.
wow.
That's right, the county would not consider purchasing the one whatever thing. Mr. K.P. Wilson and Frank C. Merritt, they did it.
Okay, those are our recommendations.
Ms.
Let me
Vieta,
just ask this and say something else too. Even, if there's a possibility that they couldn't get all the grants and things just all together and get some, maybe it could be negotiated with that nonprofit.
Right, and that's all stuff that is still in the works. That's why I said, these are all, we had to have a recommendation, to bring to the board, and because that was on the table, and it is, something that is very viable for
Greenville
us.
has nothing
Right.
now. When we want to have our Greenville Training School reunions, in which we've asked you, Mrs. Pickles, already, we
Yes,
planned
you
one
have.
for this year. And you've given permission, was whatever, the things are. And then Greenville will have nothing, no community center, no, nothing.
that's what I was gonna ask is, do you think that there is a purpose that the town of Greenville would utilize that building for? And you said maybe a community center?
And
I
then
mean,
the health department,
Yeah, so,
juvenile justice, there are so many rooms and things available there that,
well, so I did look into that, and they are all occupying the old school right now. That building, and that was one of the comps that I used as far as values and doing like the research, that building is actually for sale itself right now.
been
Which
for
one?
sale.
The old.
primary
The
school.
old primary school.
Oh, okay, and then that's what I wanted to say. We gave those people, we gave them that.
And they're
Now
selling it.
selling it, making a profit off it.
Right, right,
We gave them.
right.
And all that land that we gave away, these people making a profit off it now.
Yep.
So, stipulations and whatever, none competitive, none this, none whatever should be, whatever we do.
Let me
Yeah.
tag on to you about the building. It has a beautiful library in it that's fully stocked. They don't need the books at Central because they've got a fully staffed. And that would be something that actually the community could take advantage of, as well as Pinetta. They've got a beautiful library.
Well, and the
And-
library
and-
was brought up.
And
Central
then,
is not a
the
warehouse.
county commissioners, they had negotiated for a library over there in Greenville. Now the funds are not there, and if those funds that they have, if they don't spend those funds in a certain length of time, it's gone away.
Yeah.
But they still don't have enough funds.
Right, and the library was one of the things that was mentioned, because the library in Greenville actually is not even able to be occupied because of mold still. So that was one of the things that was, mentioned, as far as if the town of Greenville. The thing is, they're not financially in any better of a position than we are. So, it's financially a burden on us to hold and maintain that building. It's also financially a burden for them to hold and maintain that building. If we were to work in a partnership, we can't continue to go backwards to keep the lights on and maintenance and insurance and everything else for the building. And it's the same thing for them right now. So it's trying to figure, is there a happy medium in there where they can get some funding or some revenue sources to put into the building to occupy it so that it's not a burden on either one of the district or the the community or the town so that we can work a partnership. That's still, we're working on that.
Well, we got some millionaires, I'll be trying to check.
You get one to write a check, we'll be good to go,
I'm
Deanna.
saying to see if they can form a committee and do and whatever and all that.
I think Ryan was working on that if you double
Charles Evans,
check.
Hattie F. Evans, and all those people.
I'm not sure he was reaching out too, but he was working on putting something together, if you wanna double check with him. I don't wanna misspeak on
And
who
we got
he was
people
reaching
who
out to.
in the service and have done so well for themselves and stuff, so I always start reaching out to those people, talking with Brian and let him do it better than me.
Get your millionaire friends to contribute.
Because the Evan family, those people are pharmacists all the way, and they had talked about downtown Greenville, they want to put some pharmacy things in place down there to do the things in Greenville.
Yeah, which would be
Charles,
wonderful.
Hattie Evans,
I mean,
Kay Evans, and all those people.
it's not, I mean, and one of the things that we discussed on the committee, and Robin, will validate, it's not just about money. If there is a way for us to take the burden off of us and still make it to,
Okay.
something good for the community, that we're for that. But the representative for Greenville was not able to validate or take on that responsibility at this time. So that's why the recommendation came forward the way it is.
Thank you.
So I think you've heard from the three committees tonight. So think about what all they've said. And if the other committees are still.
You the Evans, you a millionaire. You got a different last name, but you the Evans.
Yeah, and,
We need y'all to write us a check.
I'm sorry.
because actually, that land is separated, and just to clarify too, several of the properties, so like the property in Greenville, like in my research and finding out, like I said, the background of it, the Choice property is actually still deeded separately. It's still, the district still owns it, but it's a separate parcel. So it's, each one of so Greenville is separated in a couple different parcels, Pinetta is separated in a couple parcels, and so is Lee. So like, even in going into depth of, like Lee, for example, if we went into partnership with the county for them to take over for a shelter, that would be the school parcel. The library would be a whole separate situation, and then there's also a parcel where there's pine trees there. We looked at just selling that part, and then, partnering the rest.
So what kind of contract did we get with the library down there in Lee? Did we give them a lease for so?
Yeah, I think
Length of
that's
time?
That was
Yeah.
We
recently
gave
brought
them a
up.
lease.
Yeah.
A certain length of time, and that was a long time.
Yeah, so, we looked at separating that one in the three parcels that it is, sell one parcel because it's just pine trees, shelter one of them, and then keep the contract with the library separately. And like I said, Greenville has two separate parcels out there as well. Pinetta, I think,
I
is
know
on
the
two.
Choice family has gone, they're not as prevalent as the Evans family. Rod is a nephew of them people.
Yeah.
Let me tell you the history. Tell your people. Okay.
No, and like I said, we've done the due diligence. It's just a matter of waiting.
And then everything wasn't told in this particular.
Well,
Okay.
because she's just giving the
Yes,
recommendations.
just,
She's only giving you what the recommendations are, but I, like I said, we did dig into a lot of, we've even considered, like with Pinetta, and honestly, they came back on the table today, which I'm gonna send out, the Methodist home, somebody higher up called me today, so now they're potentially interested in maybe Pinetta, so, but again, that still includes us getting rid of the
Because
buildings.
the Pinetta's the biggest problem would be because they're not incorporated.
Well, but
I mean,
again.
I'm just saying.
No, and I totally agree, but, and again, I don't want you to think that when, in our meeting, that the concern of what we did with those buildings and how it would impact the community was not very heavily taken into consideration, because it was. And, again, selling it obviously is the easy fix, and it puts a little bit of money back into the bank, but, it's not all about the dollars, because at the end of the day, we do want to make sure that what decision, we bring forward is going to also have a good impact on the community.
Thank you.
And it was also mentioned a couple times, that when the district had given property away in the past,
Correct.
people would turn around and sold it. Not just.
I mean, they got the hospital land,
Middles,
that good
yeah.
crime land out there to the hospital, they got that for
Right.
sale now too.
And that's-
What's that?
Yep, and that's why we mentioned the
And then look at
non-compete
primary school
and the
all
first right of
that.
refusal.
That's it, what they gonna say that now? I mean, that's a nice prime land. And I mean, we gave it away. And now
So-
we're struggling and they don't see fit to give it back, they wanna sell it.
So I guess all we're waiting to report back is team building and heritage.
Yes, ma'am.
And if we have,
Transition.
and transition.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
transition.
So if they have any recommendations, then we'll have the meeting for next week. If not, we will not have that meeting.
Okay.
So I will find out from them.
But tomorrow night, that's for the public to come.
That is for the public, yes, ma'am.
For all the all the committees, or just,
That's just going to be an information,
Just information,
just a
yeah.
status of
Just
where
to
we
update the
are
community.
For the
So-
general public.
for the general public, anyone that wants to come. So thank you.
Thank you.
And I will keep you updated as far as the workshop for next week.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.